Good morning, hustle gods. Rather, good afternoon. It is now 12:27, guys.
I don't really listen when they
Don't know what I can do, but I can shit on your ass at the same time. That's what I'm
I
talking
need
about.
the money up front
And
and
that's
up
what
back
you do.
in.
You doing your thing, what you
I've been
supposed to
busting
do.
up a loop
You ain't no scary ass nigga, I know this already.
to the money
You
where I'm
supposed to
going
be.
anytime
I
that
ain't
they
never been
asking.
scared.
This is Hussleuary day 5, and guys, we're just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give you a quick little story time about my Me Too story. And basically, it was about a time in my life. I was 9 years old when did by and I was hesitant to make this video because I know how people feel about these kinds of videos, but I felt like it's my story to tell and only I can tell it because, again, it's my story and I have the right to tell it because it happened to me. So I'm just gonna tell you guys a little bit about what happened, how I felt afterwards, and how I learned to cope with it going forward, and how I understood what was happening. I was saying I was about 9 years old when this happened to me. It actually happened at my aunt's house, and yeah, so my aunt, I always go over my aunt's house. I loved going over my aunt's house. That was like my second home, pretty much. That's where all my cousins were, and you know, my favorite cousin, we're very close in age. You know, so I loved going over there. So one particular day, this is actually my first time ever meeting. So this one particular day, I'm over there, I go over there, and you know, me and my cousins are playing, we're watching TV, we're dancing to music, you know, doing little normal kid stuff that you do when you're over your cousin's house. My aunt had went to work that night, and this is my first time meeting this man. This is my first time, you know, ever having an encounter, so that I remember, with this man. So I go, and my aunt, she works at night, so she was working the night shift. Her father, my uncle as well, worked at night as well, and so it was only the kids there and him. Yeah, I'm just gonna call him my donor. So my donor ended up staying the night, and it was time for everyone to go to bed. You know, at nighttime, you know, the girls had their room and the guys had their room, so I go to the girls' room, obviously, to sleep with my cousin. And he's like, you don't want to sleep with me? And I was hesitant, and I was like, sure, you know, nothing's bad is gonna happen to me, so okay, fine. I'm not gonna go into detail about exactly what happened, but anyway, push came to shove, he made me feel very uncomfortable, and then that's when the thing happened. And so when that happened, I got up immediately. I didn't really understand what was going on. All I understood was that my donor had touched me in a bad place, and it didn't make me feel good. So I got up and I went to tell my older cousin, and she's half asleep. I told her, like, hey, I think my donor did something bad, you know, like he touched me in a bad area. You know, she just laughed it off, thinking that it was just kid stuff. So I told my cousin that I'm close with in age, and she automatically was like, we have to go tell. So she basically stayed up with me all night and waited till my aunt got home. And when my aunt got home, I told her exactly what happened, how it happened. I went into grave detail about exactly what was what, and told her how I felt about it. She had to tell my grandmother, because that's who my guardian was at the time. So she went ahead, told my grandmother about exactly what happened, and yeah, my grandmother had a private conversation with me about it. I'm not gonna say exactly what I told her, but I told her basically that he touched me in the no touch zone. And it's crazy that that happened to me, because literally 2 weeks before that, me and my grandma had the good touch bad touch talk, and she basically went into detail about exactly what is good touch, what is bad touch. You know, I remember that conversation. So it's crazy that that happened to me. So come to find out, he's just my donor is just very sick. He's very perverted, and years later it was hard for me to cope with it at first. At first I went through the stage of I thought it was my fault. I went through this stage of feeling like I hated myself. I hated my lady parts. I hated being a woman, and I feel that has some part to do in who I am today. I'm very cautious, and I'm very protective over myself. So I'm very, when it comes to anything of that type of nature, I do not go for it. So yeah, years later I started having very bad anger problems. I found out later that that was how I was coping with it, by always being mad, by always, you know, being upset that that happened to me, and that somebody who's supposed to protect you from the world was the person who violated you. So that really, and it made me cry. I cried a lot of times. For the longest, I couldn't sleep in my own bed. I had to sleep with my grandmother, because I didn't feel comfortable sleeping in my own bed. I was always scared that something was going to happen to me. So I ended up going to therapy, you know, and figuring out exactly how to control my emotions, because I did. Growing up, you know, black people, we have a culture of we don't talk about our feelings. So well, as I'm going through all this stuff, and I'm trying to find a way to say, hey, I need help, I'm acting out in the same manner. I'm fighting at school. I'm getting into, not just fighting, but I'm getting into fights that could potentially put me in the situation that I don't want to be in, you know. I'm pretty much just handing it to people left and right. I'm letting anybody have it. I just had a I don't care attitude. Then I got into trouble at school my 8th grade year, and actually, yeah, my 8th grade year, yeah, I got in trouble, and I ended up finding this dean. She was the dean of the school, and I had actually got into an altercation with her niece. I just really appreciate her, because she could have took it further than she could have, but I felt provoked in that situation, so I had to do what I had to do. But then I ended up going to these groups, and when I go to these groups, we talk about everything, and there's other people like me that went through like a traumatic time in their life, or you know, we're all trying to find ways to cope and understand each other, and not only each other but ourselves. So ourselves first, and then each other secondly. So we went to those groups, and I bonded with so many of those girls. Like, we still talk to this day. My sisterhood group, we still talk to this day. That's how I pretty much learned how to cope with it, just by talking it out, getting advice, you know, letting myself be okay to talk about my feelings. And if I'm angry about something, about thinking about it first. I also played sports in high school, so that gave me like, I played sports ever since I was like 2 years old, so it's like that also gave me like discipline. I just had to as I was growing up and getting older, as I was like 14, 15, you know, I had to get it together. I was like in high school now, so it's like, okay, now you gotta tighten up, you know. So that's how I basically learned how to cope with it, and how I was during I like I said, I had a rough time. It was horrible. It was like the worst thing ever. But I wanted to just share my story with you guys. I know it was very quick, but that's my story. That's how I was during it. That's how I am after it. Now I'm 24, about to be 25, and I can, a lot of people do say that their violators do reach out to them. And yeah, my violator reached out to me, and I thought about forgiving him, and I did forgive him, and I forgave him because it wasn't for him, it was for me, it was for my soul. But I just forgave him, and I no longer accept him in my life. Because he didn't step up to the plate. He doesn't get to get off this awesomeness that I am. And B, it's water under the bridge. I'm great now, so it's like there's no need for him to be here. So that's how I dealt with it. Oh, that dog about to attack them little dogs. Well, he was trying to. So that is my story. Stay tuned for the end of this video so that you guys can get the resources and the help that you need. You can also reach out to me personally if you need. Like I said, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a social worker or anything like that, but I have dealt with it, I've been in it, and I've also helped people with it, so, and get through it. That's the most important part. So feel free to ask me any questions down in the comments. If you don't feel comfortable with asking me in the comments, you can always email me, hit me up on any of my social media links, and get the help that you need to be a better you, be a better person, and to forgive yourself and forgive that person and be awesome. So I love you, hustle guys. That was my story. I love you guys. Have a good day. Be responsible, be respectful, and be safe.